Hi there, I'm a herald in the Society for Creative Anachronisms. Today we're going to be drawing rejected heraldry. When folks first join the SCA, many want to have their own coat of arms, especially the sword fighters. Everyone wants to have a unique design, and it's the herald's job to help with this. It's important to make sure that any new design is different enough from all of the other registered heraldry, both in the society and from important real-world armory. A long time ago, back in the bad old days of the early 1980s, my dad wanted his own coat of arms. A bit of vocabulary. A heraldic device is a design registered to a specific person or group. A heraldic coat of arms, the main design registered to a person with an award of arms. A device becomes a coat of arms when you receive an award of arms. However, the two terms are often used interchangeably. Since most folk have only heard of the phrase coat of arms, I'll usually be using that one. Now, back to my dad. My dad said, okay, I want a device. Dad thought, and he came up with this blazon. A blazon is a verbal written description of a heraldic coat of arms or device that you can use to draw. Vert, on a bend sable, Fimbriated argent, a line of billets or. When they hear this description, heralds love this blazon for a lot of reasons. They get so excited! And then they draw it. Okay, first start by drawing a shield. This time, I decide how wide I want the shield to be, then mark down 1/3 the width from the top. Take out a compass and set it to the width of the shield. Draw a curve on each side like so, then trace over the pencil lines with pen. The first part of this blazon is vert. That means the whole background of the field gets filled in. No, my markers are dying! The next part of the blazon, vert, a bend sable. More herald vocabulary. Vert is green and sable is black. A bend is a diagonal stripe starting at the top left of the shield and ending at the bottom right, about 1/3 of the width of the shield. This is nice so far, but we can't stop the design here because it violates the biggest rule of medieval field heraldry. The rule of tincture. All designs need to have good contrast between elements. The field and the charges on top of it, also between a charge and smaller things on top of the charge. This makes it easy to identify the heraldry from a distance. In short, good contrast means no color on color or metal on metal. Colors are vert, sable, gules, azure, and pupaire. Metals are or and argent. Yes, there are more colors found in your marker set, but for the moment we are going to ignore them. Vert, on a bend sable, Fimbriated argent. Fimbriated, that's a new term. Fimbriated refers to a thin outline of a charge to add contrast. Usually the fimbriation is thin, but I'm drawing it just a little bit thicker to make it easier to see. That's okay. I'm using the ruler on my right triangle to keep the width constant. This blazon is pretty much all straight lines. Animals are pretty, but they are so hard to draw sometimes, and hard to sew. If this looks a bit familiar, change the field to gules, or red, and you have the flag of Trinidad and Tobago. The SCA Heralds include important real-world heraldry on file and try to nudge people away from it. We try to keep at least 2 distinct differences between known heraldry before it is allowed to be registered. Altering the color is one change. The final piece of the blazon. On top of the sable bend, a line of billets or. A billet is just a rectangle, usually drawn twice as high as it is wide. I want to draw the billets right down the center of the bend with the same width as the fimbriation. Luckily, I can use the ruler on the side of my right triangle again. I mark out the width of the billets, drop registration marks at the start and end of each, then go over everything in pen. If you're wondering why half the time I use awkward hand angles when drawing straight edges and other things, well, Mom was a leftie. So I grew up trying to copy her and had a bit of a hard time. Sometimes she'd hand me a project that she was halfway done with, like the ironing or slicing bread that she'd set up for herself that was halfway done. So now, years later, half the time I find myself setting up a task like a leftie would, then wonder why I'm having a difficult time. Ah! And now you can see why all the heralds groaned after drawing this blazon. It's a road going across a green field. Between my dad's job and going to tons of SCA events when I was a kid, he was on the road all the time. By the way, in herald speak, proper means the natural coloration of a thing. Most animals and items are not monochromatic after all. Dad sent this design off to get registered, which can take a while since this process has to go through a couple of multi-regional boards of the SCA's College of Heralds to make sure it does not conflict with someone else's heraldry, fits medieval practices, and is not offensive. It was rejected. The reason? Too many layers. I think that someone just didn't like it, since I've seen plenty of devices registered since then which have more layers. Now, between you and me, I like silly and ridiculous heraldry. A good herald will do their best to help you design and register a device or coat of arms that you like, something that is unique to you. Occasionally, they can help you find design loopholes. My dad did eventually get a device registered that he still uses, but I'll talk about that another time. Thanks for drawing with me. Subscribe to my channel for more heraldic fun.